Dr. Dexter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Collins, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your endurance. Like many physicians, I was trained in VA facilities and proudly cared for veterans at the Denver VA for 7 years. As a critical care physician for nearly 20 years, I have cared for far too many families grappling with post-suicide attempt repercussions. They're looking for answers, support, and hope. So I know you know and you've expressed your support for our veterans in dealing with the fact that they are amongst the most vulnerable people in our communities. Risk for suicide is very high amongst our veteran population, and it sounds from your multiple comments today that this is a top priority for you, and you've stated that multiple times. I just want to verify that we are in that together.
We're definitely in that together, and thank you for your work there. One of the things, if I could just interject here, most people don't realize it's not just 75%, it's closer to 80 or 90% on some baby docs who all come through the VA. Yep. What I would love to have, and have your help and the other doctors' help, how can we keep them? Some of that is actually, by the way, if you want a bill recommendation that you might want to carry, let's raise the caps.
Yeah.
Get my caps raised so I can actually hire doctors at a rate that is better than what we got right now.
Love to work with you on that. Former Inspector General Michael Missel was dedicated in his work to end veteran suicide as well. And under his leadership, the Inspector General's office issued, and I just brought a few, report after report after report, laying out steps to better protect veterans who are at risk for suicide. So if we're committed to expanding with every effort, every dollar to prevent veteran suicide, you'd think our administration would have wanted to keep him around. So instead, he was fired by President Trump along with at least 16 other inspectors general across the federal government just days after his taking office. Secretary Collins, why did President Trump fire Inspector General Missel?
I have no idea. You'd have to ask him.
Okay. And since Missel's firing, we've been without a permanent inspector general to hold your department accountable. It's, as you know from oversight, it's an important role. And you, Secretary of Collins, have taken actions that have inadvertently put veterans at risk with the firing of 24 direct support line, veteran crisis line support staff. I know it wasn't the direct answers of the calls. I know you've rehired those VA workers, but can you tell me, did you approve those initial firings?
The probationary firings were approved in my office. I mean, that's where we went forward, is following the directions that we were given.
Okay. And so
and also, frankly, the trigger mechanisms for those that needed to be exempted, actually the crisis line showed that they actually worked, because once notified and that got caught up, it was actually put back in place.
Yeah, no, and their hiring back is important, clearly, but I think that true to what Congresswoman Morrison was talking to, there's a lack of trust right now in the VA and a fear that many of us are hearing about. So nearly 4 months now after that firing, the president has now nominated a replacement, Cheryl Mason, and Secretary Collins, Ms. Mason is a current political appointee at the VA who reports directly to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what concerns me, Mr. Secretary, is that we have reason to believe that Ms. Mason helped transition President Trump into office and has played a role in cutting VA's workforce, blocking staff from contacting agency attorneys, and as my colleague Ms. Brownlee pointed out earlier, is suggesting or forcing that VA staff sign on to non-disclosure agreements. When considering her track record, it is clear that there is a conflict of interest here. She has been part of executing the Trump agenda and now theoretically will hold that same administration accountable in an oversight role. Secretary Collins, veterans and their families deserve leaders who put them first, especially when the stakes of life and death are at play. Do you agree that we must have someone who can be seen as impartial and without conflict in this role of Inspector General?
I think the president has nominated someone who will actually do that, who has actually worked through 2 administrations. She actually worked under the Biden administration in the VA. She's worked inside the system for many, many years. If you look at her total work experience and how she goes about it, I think she'll be a great candidate for that.
Without question, she is a good candidate. I think the concern for me is her role with the administration and also as a political appointee serving the people that she actually is going to be appointed to oversee. Regardless of whether or not she can do that without partisanship or favor, the potential conflicts exist, or at least the premise or the suggestion of conflict exists. So for the record, our shared commitment to advancing an inspector general who can fulfill their statutory obligation to be independent and objective in executing their duties is something that we share. Is that true?
Yes, and I believe the president's choice and Ms. Mason will fulfill that.
Okay, great. I also appreciate that members of this committee know from direct outreach, including what we just heard again from Dr. Morrison, that VA employees have concerns about the culture of the VA and have shared that there's a fear of retaliation for people who speak out. Members of this committee have also experienced a lack of responsiveness when asking to visit a local VA, which is really quite unprecedented. Mr. Secretary, how are you going to rebuild trust in the VA for the employees as well as the veterans that you serve?
Continuing, Congresswoman, exactly what I'm trying to do right now is I have freely come up and talked about issues that are hard, and also say just judge what is actually happening and not what is being talked about. This has been the issue that I've had to deal with from the day one that I got in, was actually dealing with many times not accurate information. Yeah. Now, we can disagree about how some of this is to go about, and there may be some things that we could do differently, but also having to deal with just the blatant disregard for reporter and other backlog actually hurts the problem. So for me, it's just having to go forward and tell the truth as I have it, as we're actually working it, and work to just rebuild that visit by visit by visit that I go to. And what is interesting, though, and I was not joking with Dr. Morrison as well, is in Minneapolis and in other places as well, once I am there and able to talk to our hospital staff, talk to our senior leadership, and see them, they're actually understanding what my heart is. And I just got to do this one at a time and with every member here.
I appreciate that. I certainly appreciate that showing up is what builds trust, and clearly you are doing that in good honor and spirit, so I appreciate that. We will be watching. We certainly are looking for our veterans to be served to the best of our ability as a nation. I hear your commitment, and we look forward to further conversations. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.